The absolute advantage is the product that produces the most, whereas comparative advantage is the product with the lowest opportunity cost. So in this situation, Brett can make 10 cakes and 15 pies, while Joe can make 5 cakes and 4 pies. So in order to find the comparative advantage, I just took 15 over 10, which simplified to 3/2, and then the number next to it would just be its reciprocal. And then for Joe, I took 4 over 5, and once again, the number over here would be just its reciprocal. So that would just turn out to be one cake costs 3/2 of a pie. One pie costs 2/3 of a cake for Brett, and then for Joe, one cake costs 4/5 of a pie, while one pie costs 5/4 of a cake. So for the comparative advantage, Brett would have the comparative advantage for pies because he has a lower opportunity cost of 2/3 compared to 5/4, whereas Joe would have the comparative advantage for cakes because his comparative advantage is 4/5 compared to 3/2, which makes it the smallest number. For the terms of trade, if Brett made pies and traded for cakes, any acceptable trade would be a number between 2/3 and 5/4. So an example could be one pie for one cake. So if this were to be an input problem, which is looking at the number of hours that took to produce a certain item, we would now be looking at the smallest number. So in this case, Joe would have the absolute advantage for both cakes and pies because 5 hours compared to 10 hours is less, and 4 hours compared to 15 hours is a lot less. So to calculate the comparative advantage, instead of taking 15 over 10, I simply took 10 over 15 and vice versa down here. So this would be 5 over 4. So essentially my numbers just flipped around. So this would be one cake costs 2/3 of a pie, while one pie costs 3/2 of a cake. And then for Joe, it would be one cake costs 5/4 of a pie, while one pie costs 4/5 of a cake. So as you can see here, my numbers are simply flipped. So this would essentially give Joe the comparative advantage for pies because he has a lower opportunity cost of 4/5, while Brett would have the comparative advantage of cakes because his comparative advantage, or his number, is 2/3 compared to 5/4, making this the smallest number.